Hello, it's Rebecca, and it's the last day of 2016, so goodbye Christmas, my old friend, and hello New Year, nearly. So this is my last book review of the year, and it is my last Christmassy rom-com book that I have been reading throughout December. So I have been reading 12 Days of Christmas by Trisha Ashby, and I will read you the blurb and talk to you about the book. The festive season has always been a sad time for young widow Holly Brown, so when she's asked to look after a remote house on the Lancashire moors, it's the perfect excuse to forget about the festivities. The owner of the house, Jude Martland, is also avoiding Christmas since the last one saw his brother run off with his fiancée. But forced to return home unexpectedly, Jude arrives to find that his family are running amok, with Holly seemingly at the centre of it all. As the blizzards descend, there is no escape. With nowhere to go, Holly and Jude get much more than they bargained for, and it soon looks like the 12 days of Christmas are going to be very interesting indeed. I'm slightly torn with this one. It was a very long book for a chick litty rom-com. They're normally around the 300-page mark, kind of throwaway stories, whereas this one was just over 400 pages, which meant it took me a very long time to read. As you know, I'm a very slow reader. And I did feel that there was a little bit too much in there, too much detail, too many unnecessary words, and I do think it could have been cut down slightly. That aside, the story was okay. Eve, bless her, seems to have had everything go wrong. Her husband died around Christmas about 8 years ago when he was going out for a run and he saw a dog on a frozen lake, and the lake had, or the ice had cracked and the dog fell in, and her husband jumped in to save the dog, and sadly her husband died. So she doesn't like Christmas because it reminds her of this thing that happened to her husband. And her grandmother, who she's very, very close to, also dies around Christmas time, making it just doubly awful for her. So she has a job. Her main job is as a chef, but she also has another job as a house sitter. And every Christmas since her husband died, she has gone to house sit for people who have gone away over the Christmas period. And it means she can get away from Christmas. She can be on her own. She can do what she wants. She doesn't have to cook for anybody. She doesn't have to speak to anybody. She doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to. So she gets this offer of a job to go and stay in this really old house. It's like a farmhouse. There's a horse and a dog and a goat, and it's all kind of old and lovely. It seems like a really, really lovely place to go. And in kind of a coach house, annex type house thing, live the uncle and aunt of Jude. It's so complicated. There are a lot of characters in this. That was one of my bugbears with this book. Jude owns the house. His uncle and aunt live nearby in like a coach house type thing, I guess on the same plot of land. And the uncle and aunt are there with their granddaughter. Like I say, it's really complicated. There's this huge family, the Martlands, and I did get myself a little bit confused as to who was who, and some of the minor characters just disappeared out of my head because there were so many. And Eve has gone to work in this house because the couple who usually house sit that house had a family emergency and had to go. So she's a new lady in an unknown place, and the routines that she wanted to escape, like Christmas dinner, decorations, the whole Christmas shebang, tumble down on her like a ton of bricks because the uncle and aunt usually have their Christmas dinner cooked for them by the couple that usually stayed in the house. Are you still with me? Good. So while Eve is wanting to forget about Christmas and just get on with, she writes cookery books because she's a chef, she just wanted to get on with doing that, she finds that she now has to cook Christmas dinner for people that she's never met before. And as the story kind of rolls on, more and more people end up coming and staying at the house because the village gets snowed in. There's more uncles and aunts and brothers and cousins that kind of descend on the family. It's just a huge, huge mishmash of people that she didn't want to deal with. But she gets around it and she starts cooking, and there's lots of food in the freezer, and she gets into this routine that she doesn't particularly like, but she can see everyone else is enjoying it, and yeah, so it's not the Christmas she expected. Anyway, so Jude was away, and he returns, and Jude and Eve clash heads. He doesn't like her being in his house. She finds him really bossy and overbearing, and all this other stuff is going on, but there's a little attraction between them. Little attraction. And she doesn't want to build on it because she's heard bad things about the family, that these men just sleep with women and then disappear off into the night and, you know, just don't care. And it's this whole contrived situation of them being alone together and him being jealous if any other person talks to her, even though they're not together and there's no real sign of them ever being together. But there's a lot of tension, and it gets broken up by all these other characters kind of interrupting. I found the story strained. I found the dialogue and the way the characters spoke extremely unnatural. The language was just very stunted and it jarred in places, so I didn't like that about the characters. I found the character of Eve very off-putting. She wanted to be alone at Christmas, and she could have been. She didn't have to cook for this family. She didn't have to do what was expected of her. It wasn't part of her contract as a house sitter. She didn't have to do these things. She could have just locked herself away and said, Christmas is a really tough time for me. I really don't want to do it. I'm not being rude. My husband died around Christmas and I like to just be on my own. And she spends a lot of time complaining that she's got to do all this stuff, but she doesn't have to. She didn't have to. That's not what she's paid for. And I know she said she feels sorry for them and she wanted to do it because they wanted her to do it. But if it was so tough, she could have just said no. So I really struggled with her character. I struggled with the relationship between her and Jude because they really don't seem to like each other. And I know sometimes in relationships you clash heads with the person you're most attracted to, but they just didn't seem suited. They didn't seem right. They didn't really build a relationship either because there were so many other people around. They didn't spend an awful lot of time alone together. So there were just lots of little things that just didn't ring true. It was super Christmassy. It snowed. There was a giant Christmas tree in the house. There was mistletoe and holly and lights and lots of delicious Christmas food. So for a Christmas book, this one definitely was set at Christmas, and it was one that really kind of made you feel cold. She falls over in the snow, which I did the other week ice skating and really hurt my bottom. So I could really feel the Christmassiness of it and the coldness of it, and that was nice. And when she's in the house and they've got a fire going and they're drinking hot chocolate and they're eating really delicious food, and that made me feel really Christmassy. But the story I think was too long, unbelievable. And again, I know these things are fantasy, but I still like a little bit of reality in there as well. So that was just a bit tough to deal with. So I'm sad that I didn't enjoy this one, but I read it and it kind of ended okay. Not exactly how I expected it to end, but still not bad, but too long. Too long for just a quick Christmas read. So yeah, read it, don't read it. It's entirely up to you. So if you'd like to hear any of my other book reviews, then please subscribe. I put videos out every time I've read a book or done something bookish, writerly, I don't know, anything really. So if you're interested in reading and or writing, then please subscribe, and I will see you soon and have a very good new year. Bye bye.